Crucify him and get him all up out of here. That's what you've come to this video to hear me say, right? Or if that's not you, maybe that's not you. Maybe you've come to this video to hear me go off on anyone or everyone who enabled these rich monsters to do these horrible things to disadvantaged people. Because let's be honest, that's the easy and frankly justifiable thing to do. At least that's what it feels like most times, right? When we're thinking about our gut reaction and the sides of ourselves that wants to just see justice and seek justice for the most disadvantaged or even the most disadvantaged in a particular situation, right? But if I can serve notice on you guys, that doesn't work. You see, because come closer, come a little closer. You're capable of the same exact monstrous and abhorrent behaviors as any of the rich people we've watched implode themselves over the last several months, years, weeks, however long you've been paying attention to what's been happening. And honestly, this applies to all of them. So I won't be specifically speaking on any of them, but you can just pick one and insert their name right here. How, though? Let's pause here because I'm sure you're saying, Raven, how can you compare me to them? Because, well, actually, I'll just let Maya Angelou lay out what I mean right here.
Nothing human can be alien to me.
What she's essentially saying here in this clip is that there but by the grace of God go I. Which means only given the right circumstances with the right amount of power, resources, and financial command, without the conviction and compelling of something greater and higher than ourselves, we are all susceptible to the same abuse of power and resources because at our core, guys, who we inherently are is evil. And I know that's a hard pill to swallow for so many people because we see ourselves through the lens of goodness, right? And I get it. I want to be very clear. I get it. But I hate to say it. The truth is that we're not. But don't let that discourage you or discourage you from trying to be good and pursuing good things and goodness. It just takes intention, and it takes effort. And I'll talk through some of that throughout this video. But for now, we're going to talk about how and why these situations continue to happen in perpetuity. We're going to talk about how we all work to perpetuate circumstances like the ones that we continue to see in the media with rich, wealthy people, both implicitly and explicitly. We're going to talk through how we perpetuate them on at our level. We're also going to talk about no matter who our faves are, as far as celebrities and wealthy people go, the odds that they are or have to some degree fallen integrally and drowning in debased behaviors is very, very high. But let's be clear though, those odds are high not because they are particularly bad people, but because money, exorbitant amounts of it especially, corrupts. And that's always been true since the dawn of time, guys. So it's not about any particular bad person, but rather it's about human nature that we just have to start honestly reckoning with. In every historic tale you hear about great societies and the like, there is always the rich monarch or the wealthy storekeeper or the rich businessman or whomever, right? Insert person there who eventually sees their demise because their money gets the best of them in one way or another. They either implode from their own loneliness and isolation, or their greed, or they are murdered at the hands of their subjects. And whether in fable or in real world examples, the rich characters and their demise is always an inevitable faction of the story. Now, let's talk about why. Chapter 1, money, pleasure, and control. Why do we keep seeing wealthy and celebrity figures go down in flames, burning the very legacy and the very castles that they spent so much of their lives to build? They worked so hard to build these things that it almost seems like they're intentionally imploding and burning them down, right? Why do we keep seeing that? Well, it's a couple reasons. And so just buckle up because it's going to be a wild ride, but I promise you we're going to get to some substantive things that you'll be able to take away. Our worship, guys, and obsession with celebrity and opulence is that's how they burn them down. But this obsession didn't come from just nowhere, right? It's an age-old truth that I think has remained true since the fall of mankind. Let me try and break it down in the simplest way that I can. The first reason why is because we are eternal beings made by an eternal God that exists outside of time. And as a result of that, We are always longing for the bliss and joys of an eternity, right? The kind of joy that can't be quenched. And so what that means then is we are always looking for or trying to mirror the eternal and never-ending style of unspeakable joy. This level of joy is how we and what we were designed for, because like I said, we are eternal beings. So our desire for pleasure is among the most human things about us. So it's not wrong. I want to be very clear here. It's not necessarily wrong that we want to feel and experience pleasure at this level, this unmitigated level. However, though, this is what's critical to note. Once sin entered into the world and separated us from God, we became enslaved by our desires and malevolence, leading us down a path of constantly trying to find a new high that can somehow suffice this eternal longing within us. It means that we are always trying to fulfill that eternal longing that has and will always exist until we are once again united with eternity again. So what we have to do now then is we have to work to realize that joy we seek in unmitigated pleasures, right? Always seeking the next high, the next thing that can make you feel the highest. It'll never be able to be fulfilled fully by anything temporal because it simply is not a temporal longing. Okay, but what does this have to do with all the continual reports of our favorite public figures being maligned and mess? Well, once again, I'm so glad you asked. These people are prime examples of what being drunk off the highs that unmitigated pleasures provides yields. It's an ecstasy that can never, ever be fulfilled, as the longing that humans feel for unmitigated joy is a longing birthed solely from our desire for the perfection that is in our nature from creation. But like I said, because we've been separated as a result of sin, we will never be able to fulfill it until we're reconnected with God. It's just the bottom line. So that's why the more you get, the more you want. If you don't believe me, think about that. Why is it that the more pleasure you get, the more you want? And that is literally true for all of us. It just so happens that celebrities and wealthier people are able to garner more and aren't constrained by things like stress over basic needs. Thus, their hunger and their desires are, like, in essence, unquenchable, if you will, right? Quenched by no limited factors in their lives until their habits catch up with them and provides a quenching that is often irreparable. And they go through things that sometimes are difficult and often even impossible to come back from. Basically, guys, they seek water from a well that has no bottom. So how do we get figures like this? In essence, and by buying into the belief that our pleasures and human desire can truly be filled with monetary gain and good time. Good time, and I want to be very clear, good time is obviously important, and we have to ensure that we prioritize it. And obviously, money is an absolute necessity too. Come on, like, we got to be honest about that. So there's no getting around that. I'd even actually argue that we do need to have strong work ethic in an effort to get money, because life is obviously 1,000 times better with it. However, what is the longing of our souls and our spirits? At what point do our souls need to be quenched with something larger than ourselves and the shallow waters of pleasure and ecstasy? So that's the first way we get stories like the ones we keep seeing in the media. But the second is solely based on our desire for meaning and importance. Now, let me explain. Chapter 2. Does my name mean something? On Maslow's hierarchy of needs, on the 4th tier, here you have what's called self-esteem. And traditionally, when we hear the word self-esteem, we go straight to how you feel about yourself. And that's not wrong, right? That's not a wrong definition at all. However, in this case, Maslow is speaking more to the human need for praise and recognition. This tier outlines how things like self-worth and self-value are inextricably linked to the things we accomplish and how we present to the world. Our desire for status and prestige is so innate to our makeup, guys, that it literally controls so much of our lives and our choices. What we all want to feel like is that we matter and that we are important to some degree to someone. However, This trait for some moves beyond a mere desire to be important to someone, and rather it moves more into wanting to feel that we are important to masses and masses of people. And that's a different level of this, right? And to be clear, this is not an innately bad thing either. The truth is, in order to be a world leader of some sort, this is where people might disagree with me, but it's a fact. In order to be a world leader of some sort, or a leader and front-facing person in any capacity, you kind of have to have a little healthy level of narcissism. And I know that that's a hard thing to wrestle with, but to hear me out. To get on stages, to tell people something and convince them to follow you and to follow the things that you say or do solely based on the work or sweat equity you've put in, that takes a level of healthy narcissism and higher, more than common belief in oneself. So needless to say, we are complex people, and it really is all about balance when, I believe anyway, when reckoning with these types of concepts. However, healthy narcissism can very easily, and often does, borderline too far over into levels of narcissism that leads you down a path of destruction. This is because you need a healthy dose of it to get the courage to profess things and portray the necessary confidence to make people believe in you and make it believable. But from that place, it can get very easy to get high off your own supply, extremely easy, and move so frequently in that space that you forget how fallible you actually are as a human being. Because in a world where most people are, let's just be honest, doing the bare minimum to get by and barely even making enough financially to get by, if you watch yourself rise to a level that is incomparable to anyone you've seen or known personally, then it is easy to convince them that you are hot stuff and also feel within yourself that you are different and made of something different than other people. And man, what a super dangerous place to be, because from there comes the feelings of invincibility. And I'd argue that there is nothing worse and more dangerous than a deeply flawed and vulnerable human being, i.e. all of us, thinking even for a millisecond that they are invincible. And that is exactly what happens to all of our faves and or wealthy people that we've kind of idolized and been seeing throughout the years be swallowed up in their own malevolence and scandal. Matter of fact, that's the recipe for scandal, guys. Perceived invincibility. So, in case you need a review, here it is in short. Human is born with a subset of personality and experiences that equip them to be uniquely talented at something, good things. Then, step 2, their talent mixed with their luck, hard work most times, and opportunities all meet at some point in their lives. Then step 3, they rise to levels above other average humans, or at least above the other humans that they've been around and been privy to see close up. Step 4, other humans follow them and they praise them for their successes. Step 5, they incrementally begin believing the hype around their name and are eventually uncheckable by anyone around them. And then inevitably, step 6, life proves them wrong. Life proves to them otherwise. Chapter 3, we are all the same. Never underestimate the power of the sinful nature, guys. And not just the power of the general sinful nature, but the power of the sinful nature that exists on the inside of you. I know we all like to think that if we were the ones with as much power and wealth and opulence as though we are watching fall, then we would somehow be different, right? But the truth is we wouldn't. Not without an adherence to something larger than ourselves, guys. Humans, it's so interesting to me because humans are the most complex, brilliant, and truly dynamic creatures on earth. And I mean that. And even amidst such wondrous dynamism, we are also animals to our core, and thus capable of the most vile barbarism known to earth. And that may feel hard and jarring to hear, because what our relativistic society has done is work to convince us that we are actually inherently good and that we are incapable of evil. And the only people that do evil are people that are bad people, right? And this is how elementary this thought process is. So that's why I'm kind of saying it kind of dismissively. But the only people that are bad are the bad people who don't care about anyone but themselves. And we should basically excommunicate them from the group so we can keep building our utopic world on our own, right? And separate from those horrible indigents over there. Until, oops, another story of one of our faves come out, and we are back at square one with our pitchforks and our knives and screaming, crucify them again, right? Because they are also bad too. And shoot, how do we miss it? But that's okay. Excommunicate them and let's restart the process and wash, rinse, and repeat, and wash, rinse, and repeat, right? Until we keep finding that, shoot, is it something in the water? And we're all just flabbergasted every time we hear a new story, or every time we hear a situation, or then it hits home and it's our cousin and it's our dad and it's our sister and it's, wait, what is this common denominator, and how do we keep missing it? We got to wake up and realize, guys, that it's not the government, it's not celebrities, it's not the rich people, it's not the money, it's all of us, all of us, you and me. The variables that change the story are what change, but in each of these horrific rich people stories we hear about each week in the news, we could literally just replace the name, but keep the same circumstances, because it's the sin nature, not the circumstances, guys. So, and this is where I'll end it. This isn't my cry for you to not condemn bad behaviors, or even, to be very clear, to draw moral equivalencies between the junk we've been seeing in media and who you are as a person, who is just some person on YouTube trying to feed your family and lead a disciplined and decent life. I'm not trying to draw equivalencies between those two things. I want to be clear there. So no, you keep on watching your YouTube videos and being great. You're fine. But rather, though, this is my plea to us all to re-examine what we prioritize in our lives, so as to ensure that we are not driven by our own pleasures and unmitigated desires. Because let's be clear, whether you're a millionaire who runs a Fortune 500 company, or you're a stay-at-home mom, or you're just a regular Joe Schmo who's a plumber or an HVAC, technician or something, I don't know. The call is still the same. We can't get so caught trying to chase after pleasure for the sake of escape or narcissism or whatever the reason is, that you forget how fallible you are as a human, and that you need to cling to something larger than yourself. Because some mistakes are difficult and arguably impossible to come back from. Should there be a road to redemption and forgiveness in our society? Absolutely, there should be. And we should, and I will do a video about us implementing like a grace and mercy ethic within our society and how we can do that better as a collective. Beyond that, though, even if forgiveness is offered to you by your peers or by the society, you have to ask yourself, are you prepared and equipped with the right stuff that can enable you to forgive yourself for what could potentially happen when you let pleasure and lack of self-control and lack of humility lead your life? That's a question that you have to ask yourself. All right, guys, that is it for this video. But if you enjoyed this, please hit that subscribe button and let's talk more. Let's wrestle with these hard things, right? And let's keep critically thinking together. And until next time, later.